Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jim.
So I need to know, do you want the funk?
Well, yes, Jim, I do want the funk.
Well, cool, but now would you give up the funk?
Hmm. No, I don't think I could.
So what you're saying then is you gotta have the funk.
Jim, life is about funking for fun. Do, 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 do. Hello and welcome to all you funky people out there. This is another wonderful episode of two guys talking about records, but not just records. We're funking for fun.
Yep.
I am Steve, a record collector.
And my name's Jim, and I own a record store. I don't feel very funky, but hopefully you'll get me there today, Steve.
Don't worry, I got a pile.
So it's going to be an interesting episode. One of those ones where we're delving into a specific genre. But for me, this is a little tougher. Because when Steve and I talked about doing this, it's like, I don't got the funk, Steve. I mean, I come close. I come close with a lot of stuff, it feels like. But this is one of those genres for me that is like, okay, it's over here, it's over here, it's rock, it's jazz, it's blues. I'm lost, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Be my
I,
funky guide.
I will be your funky guide and take you through funky heaven, man.
All right. So we have got that coming up today, plus some other cool stuff. But also, I wanted to touch base with you, Steve, about last week's episode because this one we did about the controversy over Record Store Day, Black Friday, and
Mhm.
the store Too Many Records out on the West Coast, which we did in a comment even here from Matt from Too Many Records. So thank you, sir, for watching our humble little episode here. But this episode took off like crazy for us and was one of our biggest, if not the biggest episode we've ever done. I think that subject really kind of hit a lot of people.
It did. And I mean, it's timely, but it was interesting because I just all the changes within Record Store Day, and you know, it's just some people they want it like it was in the past, but we're moving into the future, and yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun to do.
And I don't know about you, but it also brought a lot of new subscriptions into our channel along with the viewers. So I want to tell everybody that may have found this podcast through that episode last week. Hey, thanks. Welcome. I'm glad
Yes,
glad you're here. Hope you stick around with us too, because this is kind of a fun thing for Steve and I to do each week.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it was great to see. I know even on Facebook, I saw a whole bunch more people pop in on Facebook, and we didn't even have a big amount of records to,
A lot
to
of stuff.
show on that.
We don't do this very often on the podcast, Steve, but maybe it is time for a little shameless self promotion now that we've got some other folks. Don't run off. We're going to get to the records, please do. But yeah, if you folks get a chance, you can look for our channel, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you're already in seeing the Radio Wasteland Records channel. But I run this for the store primarily, but we use it as a platform for the podcast. One of them out there. And you'll see a whole lot of other stuff on our channel. So would always appreciate subscriptions when and if you folks think you want to get around to it. Now, the thing is, and Steve, I told you about this last week, they have tied something in. Let me get over to this real quick here. They have tied in a very cool element into YouTube that allows us to cross-reference both of our channels on a video. And so if you can watch the one of our episodes, you can click right over from the Radio Wasteland YouTube channel to see the Steve Carlson Vinyl Community channel, which is some very cool stuff. And you do some neat stuff on this each week too.
I do. Sundays are always my new pickups, and then it's whatever else comes during the weekdays. There is like several hundred record store reviews on there.
Yep.
I'm running out, Jim. I'm going to have to start flying to places to find record
road,
stores.
road trip to some of the most remote ones in the Rocky Mountains and see where you get
Yeah.
to. So, but yeah, either on Steve's channel, both Steve and I would appreciate it, the Steve Carlson Vinyl Community channel, or if you go back even then to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel, Lots of great stuff on there, lots of videos to dig through. I've got stuff going back several years. Steve's got stuff going back many, many years, but
Yeah.
always fun to do. And your subscriptions would be greatly appreciated on either one of those. And again, thank you for checking out our podcast. If you're new,
Yeah.
welcome. We'll try not to drive you too nuts.
Yeah, we'll try not to drive you funky.
There we
But
go.
no, we're going to drive you funky today.
We're gonna get the funk today. One of the things that we do each week here on the show is talk about our most recent pickups and additions to our ever-growing collections that we say we're gonna back off from, but never quite do. It's not gonna happen. I sent Steve a note about another box set, which I don't think you probably need, is that Fela Kuti. Oh, by the way, speaking of the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel, I got schooled by somebody on one of my new release videos. I
Yeah.
mentioned that Fela Kuti box set that's coming out next week, and I referred to it as Zamrock, and apparently it's not.
Yeah.
It's not Zamrock because he's not
No.
from Zamibia.
Exactly. Yep.
So-
He's not from Zambia. He is from Nigeria. And it's more of a high life. His is definitely more dance oriented.
So I stand
And
corrected.
funky.
Yeah, I stand corrected, dear viewers. Thank you for pointing that out. And I wondered if I was going to get a lecture from you, Steve, for incorrectly referring to something as Zamrock. It's-
No, you're not going to get it from me because I mess up all the time.
So, but yeah, back to our ever-growing collection. So what kind of goodies do you got coming in this week?
Well, Jim, it was one of those weeks.
Uh-oh, no.
You know how that goes. Yep. So let's just start with it's a group called Sunflowers. And the name of the album is You Have Fallen, Congratulations. I mean, how about that one? We're just, You Have Fallen, Congratulations. They are from Portugal because so often we don't have much Portuguese music in our collection, and it's just one of those things that I think is just a crying shame. So, this is the Fuzz Club record of the month, and number 239 out of 350. The vinyl's really neat. Look at that! Isn't
Cool.
that nice? Yeah, that really is. And so it says on here, it's kind of a Portuguese noise punk. Jagged, blown out descent into psychological freefall that the album finds the band refining their chaotic signature while letting go of structure altogether.
Well, damn.
It's a record that refuses to look away from the madness of modern existence. Wow, there you have it, huh?
Has your life been changed by that record?
Not yet, but I'll spin it one more time and we'll see what happens.
Play it backwards.
It's not too bad. I don't mind. I'm enjoying it. Is it the greatest album? No, but it's still pretty good. I like a little noise. So
Okay.
yeah, Sunflowers. How about that?
We'll see if that one's on the Spotify for the playlist.
Exactly. And that's it.
That's it. Oh my goodness.
That's it. Told you. It's one of those weeks.
Hello, Ripley. You're not going to believe this.
Exactly. Maybe call Suicide Prevention Line next for me.
Okay, well, I guess I'll dive into the few that I've got. It's been an interesting week. These are a couple things that I've been sitting and holding back, and I've decided to actually pull the trigger on them for the collection because I kind of dig them. First up, this is just a bizarre one. I don't think that this is going to be a go-to, but it's a fun one to listen to from time to time. And this is the Electric Eclectics of Dick Hyman on the Moog. This is such a squirrely fun record. It's a neat gatefold. You get inside of it, and some cool artwork. The Moog, of course, is just a very interesting type of synthesizer that has been experimented. This one, by the way, was let me see if I got my year correct on this, 1969. And Discogs actually labels this as left field music in the electronic genre subgenre left field. and experimental. I don't know about left field, but I'll definitely say the experimental. Now, Dick Hyman, I didn't realize this. I mean, he was born in 1927 and actually had played with Benny Goodman into the in the 40s and 50s, early 40s or late 40s and early 50s. And then he began experimenting with all sorts of. He was a keyboard player and played different. He got into the synthesizers into the late 60s, mid 60s. And I want to read something from the inside of this. If I could, Steve, this is actually hilarious. The liner notes on the inside of the gatefold, it just simply says Moog. The Moog synthesizer is a musical instrument that is still so new that not even those who have developed it know what its full musical potential may be. Synthesizers have been used in recording studios before this, of course. They have often added freaked out electronic sounds to whatever musical group produces with its regular instruments. They have provided decoration, color, and feeling. But now Dick Hyman has harnessed these provocative electronic synthesizer sounds. He uses the Moog synthesizer as a musical instrument, a total musical instrument, playing it in 3 ways. Unaccompanied, with accompaniment from live musicians, and even with accompaniment from a robot instrument.
Okay.
This is so cheesy, you could add some pasta to it and have yourself a nice mac and cheese dinner with this. But it's fun. It's just fun Moog synthesizer space age music.
Yeah, I used to have that one. I did not bring it back into the collection,
okay,
but I'm
sorry.
glad you have it. But those early synthesizers, they said to even just play them, you had to plug in for one note. You were plugging in something, so you could do that note. Then you had to plug in something else. I mean, they were crazy.
I come from the late era in my radio days and audio days as well, where it's called patching. Obviously, you're hard patching electronics into one another and boards into one another. So I remember those days. It was always fun. But yeah, you're talking plug and patch and plug to get different things to work in that way. 2 other additions today, and they're both from the Small Faces, and not really been into these guys a lot. Marriott and company. So this is on Immediate, and this is the 4th album, I think. Let me go through this. My Small Faces discography, if I can call that back up here. Hold on. So technically they're 4th. Both of these are from 1968. There are but 4 Small Faces. This is the one that's got Itchy Goo Park on it. It's interesting stuff. And again, I've been familiar with the Small Faces and their contributions to early. I think that bridging that gap between the Beatles pop and the Who and their mod type stuff before the Who got a little harder, especially with the likes of Itchy Goo Park. But they've also got that flavor of psychedelic rock in there. So it's pop, psych, mod, all that stuff kind of mixed in. And both of these albums go a little bit in multiple directions. So there are 4 Small Faces. Has got Itchy Goo Park is the big one off of that. Then this is the cool one. This is a little more valuable. And that is, I've got an OG copy of Ogden's Nut Gone, the Flake Tobacco. This is the die-cut cover of that. This is also from 1968, and it was their 3rd album from the Small Faces. And to find something like this in this condition is pretty cool, because not only is it the die-cut cover, it is a gatefold of sorts. And I got to be careful here so as not to rip it. It opens up into the 4 discs with pictures. Not even 4. I'm sorry, I mistook that. There's one more on here. So this goes a little crazy if I can even get back that far on this. I read that this was originally, they'd wanted the cover of this album, and I've already got it mixed up here. They wanted the cover of this album to actually be a tin with all of the stuff inserted in, but I guess it kept rolling off the record shelves, so they opted for just the paper die-cut cover. But this is also on Immediate, and originally too, this is the other reason I really like this find is that it came in. Well, this thing is trashed, but it came in a poly sleeve with a brass button clasp on it on the back.
So neat!
It still has a hype sticker of sorts. This record can be played on all stereo players. It's got an original price tag from Tops Records for $1.99. on here. So
That's nice.
the bag, of course, is not in the best of shape, but I kept it with it, obviously, because it's still the original, and it's got the pink label immediate. Oops. The pink immediate label on there as
Yep.
well. So this is an interesting album. Side one has got some different musical stylings depending upon what it is that you're listening to. I'm going to find my notes on this one. The side two, this was their fourth album, as I mentioned, released in March of. Now this says 69, but I thought it was 68 on Discogs. But this is also the Small Faces' only concept album. It's not really a concept. Side two is the concept album. We did that episode on concept albums a while back, and how weird some of these things get. Let me zoom in on this so you guys can see the cover a little more neatly there. But yeah, the side two, and I had to read up on this because I listened to it and I didn't quite get it from the music, but the side two concept album is a fairy tale that follows someone named Happiness Stan on his quest to find the missing half of the moon. So he saw the moon at half
Oh,
phase one
God.
night and just thought, the moon is gone. What do I do? And so he goes on a quest to find the answers to that, ends up meeting a magical fly who grows to large proportions, and he climbs on the fly's back and flies around looking for the missing part of the moon till he finally makes a psychedelic journey to the cave of Mad John the Hermit and explains that the moon's disappearance is only temporary, and demonstrates this by pointing out that Stan has been on his quest so long that the moon is now full again. He then sings Happiness Stan, a cheerful song about the meaning of life.
And I'd just like to point out, no drugs were used in the writing of those lyrics.
None whatsoever. I think they filled their Ogden's tobacco tin with some other
Oh,
stuff on
wow.
there. But the music is cool.
Wow.
The Ogden's is a lot more psychedelic in spots than some other stuff, which is what is kind of attracted me to it. And don't get me wrong, I like the mod stuff, and I've got another early Who album I'm going to probably show next week, where they're on there a little bit more of their mod pop phase before they got a little harder rock. So, okay, so I mean that's it for me too. Just a couple of fun ones, and a couple of really cool mod / psych ones from the Small Faces, and that Odd Moog one. But if you folks would like to hear some of the music that we talk about in our pickups and some of the stuff that we're going to get to in the main portion of our talk today, you can look for a Spotify playlist. It'll be in the description of both of the YouTube episode and the description of the Spotify episode. And you can click on that when you're done listening and watching us and check out some of this music. And Steve, I hope that one's in there. I'm pretty sure I can get my stuff. I don't know about the Moog, but yours is always a challenge.
Yeah, that's at least there's only one this week, Jim.
It's true. So I'm ready to dive in and get the funk, Steve. Here I am. I'm ready to go. I have got my Grand Funk Railroad.
Okay.
Does this count?
It has the word funk. It
Oh,
must.
shoot. Okay, what about my James Gang? Rides Again. This has got Funk 49 on it. It's the 49th.
Yeah, it does
funk.
have Funk 49. Yes.
Are these where we're going today?
I don't think they have the beat on the one. You got to have the beat on the one.
Oh, okay. And the bass is not quite there. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll shelve these, and I'll let you school me on where we are going to get the funk today. But this is a genre, Steve. I don't want to say that I don't want to say it mystifies me because I'm familiar, but I approach it in the way that I approach. We've had this talk with psychedelic rock, for example, and symphonic rock and space rock, and the very numerous branches of this genre tree, if you will. And I think funk is a good example of that because historically, it's kind of coming from the roots of jazz, but melded from soul and maybe even a little Motown kicking into it as well. And it's hard for me to really pinpoint what I would consider to be pure funk, and I'm going to lean on you for that because my tastes tend to. I've got literally one funk album in my collection. And that's it. We'll get to it in a second or two here. But my tastes tend to say, okay, is this funk rock? Is it the funkier jazz? I like blues that has a little bit more of a driving bass line in it from time to time. But where do I go to get pure, unadulterated funk?
Yeah, that's kind of hard because even most funk albums have a soul number or two, and later on they had a disco type thing, which disco is
That
not funk.
that is what always kind of steered me in the other direction because some of it just got so. I don't want to diss any disco fans out there, but some of it
Yeah.
would dance a little dangerously close to disco for my taste.
hmm Yeah, but funk is about dance. It was 76, and I've said this story before from Columbia Record Club. I did send in my card, and they sent me a Parliament album, The Clones of Dr.
Yeah. Yep.
Funkenstein, and I just look at that and I go, what the heck is that? Here I am, little, a town of 2,000 people in Nebraska, and I got the Clones of Dr. Funkenstein, and I put that on, and I was just blown away. And that was really, I had some Sly and the Stone. I had their greatest hits, which I really loved, but this was incredible, and it's just put me on a lifelong journey of really loving funk music. I mean, I the whole thing of funk, it started basically in the mid '60s, and it was just kind of a rhythmic, danceable kind of new form of music that
Mm-hmm.
came out. It was just something that was totally new, where it de-emphasized melody and it de-emphasized chord progression, and instead it focused on the bass. It focused on the bass and on a drum, mainly percussion.
Yep.
And so James Brown, he is by far the godfather of funk because he came up with the one, which is the first beat is what you hit. And you hear him and he's singing, he says, I need the one, give me the one. And a song like Cold Sweat, if you just listen to Cold Sweat, the first beat, bam, 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 it comes in hard, that first beat, because that's the one. And great funk really comes in with the one. And I mean, this is a James Brown. This is from 1970, but James Brown really his he did 65 is when he came up really with the one, and it began to take off. Uh, Boy, he once he found that in 1968 he put out, how many albums was 68? I believe he put out 8 albums.
Wow.
8 albums. This one came out in 1970, and he put out 5 albums that year. Put out 5 albums in '69 because the funk took off. People couldn't get enough of it. Now he would mix his soul because he was, definitely a soul singer. That's how he started off. But it was the funk, and just, yeah, incredible music, and it got it going. And so 65, if you had to pinpoint, you say that's probably the beginning of the real on the one funk, because nobody was doing that.
Well, and I
Hit
always
the
would,
one.
I would always kind of associate that with something being a mid to early to mid to late '70s, especially, but type of music. But to see that it got its ground coming off of Brown soul stuff in the mid '60s is, again, that's probably something that just escaped me.
Yeah, and it did. And at that time, and then, stuff began to go. There was this group, let's see here, what we got. Dyke and the Blazers. And Dyke and the Blazers, Funky Broadway. This is, some people will say, the first album, funk album that used funky. And they actually threw it in there. Because let's face it, funk, what does funk really mean? It has stank. And there's a foul smell to it, but that was funky, man. It has that stank. And so this, of course, has Funky Broadway, and it's just a heck of a funk song. Is the whole album funky? Not necessarily, but Funky Broadway is an incredible good funky album, and it came out in '67. You all the funk bands, you had the horns, you had the complete, it wasn't just a 4-piece outfit. You're going to do funk, you had to have a whole lot more.
You had to have the entire ensemble. So, Well,
Yeah.
we're in the late 60s, so let me kick into my one and only pure, I would guess it to be a pure funk album. And it's not a Parliament, it's not a Funkadelic. I picked this one up a couple of years ago, and it was a, according to Discogs, a fairly valuable album, but it came in with a little bit of warp damage to it. So I couldn't really put it out on the shelves here at the store. And I did one of my little record pie fixes to it. It didn't quite get it to the point where I felt comfortable selling it, but I could listen to it. And when I listened to it, I thought, okay, this is pretty darn cool. And this is from someone named Melvin Jackson and
Hmm.
Funky Soul. So now we're bridging those musical stylings, aren't we? By adding
Yeah.
soul into the, or I'm sorry, skull. I looked at it wrong. Funky skull on here, but he's got a good upright bass. And this is, I mean, Funky Skull parts 1 and 2, Dance of the Dervish, Everybody Loves My Baby, Cold Duck Times part 1 and 2. And this is a lot of primarily instrumental, but just very bass
Hmm.
driven funk. Discogs calls this jazz funk. And so it's not, maybe I guess I was wrong in calling it, straight up funk, but it also has a tinge of psychedelic in there and that free improv work as well.
Sure.
But have you heard of this or seen this before?
I have not. No, Jim.
Interesting. Yeah, and like I said, I normally would have put, we're talking like a triple digit album. It's not too bad. I think it's got a groove warp, as if I remember what the problem is, and it's not in the best of shape. But on Limelight, a label Limelight.
Huh.
But after I flattened it a little bit and gave it a listen, I thought this is kind of funky. I don't have anything like this. But then I stopped.
Yeah, I got enough funk. I got nervous. All of a sudden, I'm dancing around the record store. Oh Lord, no.
It's like
Where's
Parliament
my Rush album?
gets me to that front place. Says, "You got the funk. I got enough. I got the funk. I'm good."
That's
No,
right.
but
I'm
I'm
all
open.
funked out.
Yeah, well, like I said last week, I brought in some Buddy Miles, and I'm digging that. But again, the percussionist side of me in the way back 30, 40 years ago would appreciate the Buddy Miles stuff too. But
Yeah,
I mean, the idea that it mixes well with other genres is probably where I go from that point.
sure. It does. I couple more from the '60s. I had recently picked up this Marva Whitney album, and she was the backup singer for James Brown. And her and James Brown had a thing going on. And so he produced this album for her, and she sounds like a mini James Brown. I mean, it is that the on the one beat is just huge on here. I mean, the James Brown band backs her up. And it's some incredibly good stuff. Down and dirty and a lot of fun. I'm having a hard time trying to put my thing in the middle there. But also from then, and a lot of people think of them as rock, but they played funk music. They played it funky. Sly and the Family Stone.
Yep.
And they're labeled as rock and funk. This is Stand, which is, the greatest hits to me is the greatest album. But they had Fresh, which was funky. There's a Riot going on, has a lot of funk. Doesn't mean every song is necessarily funky. No, but there is some incredible funk on Stand.
Oh yeah.
It just had a lot of their hits and horn driven. And I think that's what I really love about a lot of the funk is just the horns. Yeah, the bass
Yeah.
is great, but boy, the horns just come out and just
Yep.
pow.
And I do have a Sly album. And you mentioned greatest hits, and this particular one is a greatest hits. This is everything you always wanted to hear by Sly Stone, but were afraid to ask for.
Huh.
And it's one of those promotional albums that I dig in my collection. So yeah, it does have Higher, Dance to Stand is on here as well. Want to Take You Higher, Everyday People. So it's got their good stuff, and that's good enough for me. But I guess I've never really thought of this as a straight up funk album, but more rock funk, like you'd mentioned.
Yeah. Listen to if you just put on Dance to the Music. Do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do. And I mean, there is so much funk going on in that song, Dance to the Music. And yeah, pulls you right out to the dance floor. You had mentioned, the one guy there with jazz, kind of jazz funk.
Yep.
Well, Miles Davis. Miles
Yes.
Davis. Definitely. Bitches Brew has a lot. You listen to the bass and rhythm section on there. They have such a groove. This is just a great classic example here of on the corner. It's just that funk and fusion happening. So you do have the whole fusion thing, but it is just such a strong bass and rhythm section that keeps it going. I mean, I find this to be a extremely exciting album. And the person that got him into the funk and to dress a lot cooler and look funkier, because Miles was just wearing suits, but he married, there's Betty Davis.
Yep.
And Betty Davis is raw, down and dirty, gritty funk. This is the stuff that I this album's killer. It's one of my all time favorite funk albums. Her first couple albums were phenomenal. This came out in '74. Again, her second album, her first one I think came out in '73. But she's the one because she was very young. Miles Davis couldn't control her. I mean, they didn't last very long because she was way too wild even for Miles. And so, but she made incredible. Her first three albums are phenomenal funk.
We joked earlier about Dick Hyman coming from the likes of Benny Goodman in the '40s jazz into '50s jazz, and then moving into the experimental stuff. That shows that the artist can move. But Miles Davis, to me, has been one of those as well, where he's gone through that very structured early jazz and a lot of his great success with Kind of Blue and the like, into the more mod stuff into the '60s and '70s and into the funk. So he kind of swung differently as he evolved.
He did, and you needed to because, like anything, times changing, and that jazz where you were wearing a suit and all that, young people weren't buying it anymore, and so he needed to go out after a newer crowd. Betty Davis helped him with that. Says, "Here's where you need to go. First off, you need some paisleys, you need some scarves, and and some bell bottoms. It's about time you look cool, dude." And so,
It's the
but she
rebirth
made a
of
big
the
difference.
rebirth of cool.
Yeah, yeah. But with that jazz, with the whole funk jazz, I mean Herbie Hancock went that way.
Yep.
This is Sextet. His Headhunters album. You have that one?
I don't know. I've
Uh,
played it in the store a few
okay.
times. It's come through, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jazz, I mean, it's funk fusion, I guess would be the best way to say it. But there is definitely the whole kind of the funky thing going on. The horns are just incredible during this stuff, experimental to some extent. But, fusion was that way at the start as they're trying different things. But some really great stuff from Herbie Hancock in the early '70s. I think this one came out in 1973.
Okay.
'73 was a big year for a lot of funk.
Now I do have a good crossover as well. I think I showed this several months back, but it's Yusuf Lateef's Detroit, the Latitude
Hmm.
4230, Longitude 83. This is jazz funk in the like of what you were talking about with Davis and through Herbie Hancock. But this is from 1969. It's a concept album in the likes that all of the music and the instrumentals. There's some vocals, I think, on a couple of them, but it's all based upon locations in the city of Detroit. So this even though Yusuf's not, it fits into my Michigan collection as being kind of a symbolic thing of Detroit. But it's not structured jazz in that way. It's a little more. I don't want to call it even avant-garde because it isn't, but it's got some driving bass and a lot of percussion in these, and it fits that jazz funk category very nicely through here. But yeah, this is a fairly recent find for me, and I really do get a kick out of it.
Yeah, it's cool. The power of James Brown. I mean, he went worldwide, and when you think of funk music, I mean, it's very American,
Yeah.
extreme American. I have a hard time finding groups, and I'm no doubt other countries have funk, but I have a hard time finding it. But James Brown effect in Africa, Fela Kuti.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Fela Kuti was absolutely inspired by James Brown and his music, and he changed his direction. He changed his course, and this is a nice original. of his music. Yellow Fever, I believe this one came out in well, 76. But Fela Kuti, he definitely, there is that the funk, the groove. It's about that groove. You could say African rhythms, that's part of it, but it's a James Brown groove that he has going on. And the way Kuti does his vocal styling, very, very James Brown oriented. Just excellent stuff. So, yeah, that one box set, I'm still trying to decide, do I need it? Because I got a number of Cootie box sets here. Then I bought at Radio Wasteland Records.
Yes.
But yeah, big part of it.
It's very percussive too, from what I remember listening to some of the sound samples that you had played on there before. So, what about more rock oriented? Because that's really where I go. We touched a little briefly on Sly and the Family Stone, but that is where my collection, where it dips into the funk side of things. It's always got that tinge of rock into it.
Yeah.
Soul, rock, the Chambers Brothers, if you want to call it that. Time Has Come Today. I love this album. This has just always been such a cool album. You got to have the longer version, not the radio edit of Time Has Come Today, to get the entire feel out of it. But they do a cover. People Get Ready on here, not a cover. I'm sorry, but People Get Ready. What the World Needs Now Is Love. Midnight Hour from Wilson Pickett on here as well. No, People Get Ready. I was a Curtis Mayfield. I'm sorry. That was a cover tune.
True.
I do remember that now. So this is there. I found this one a while ago too, and this is still classified somewhat as funk on Discogs, and it's the Equals and their big song "Baby Come Back" is on here. But this is Eddie Grant. I think I've talked about this before. This was Eddie Grant, Electric Avenue Eddie Grant in the '80s. This was his first group from 1968 that kind of touched into, much like the Chambers Brothers and Sly and the Family Stone, hit that rock side of the funk that I always thought was very cool. So yeah, Police on My Back, some very neat stuff on here. Laurel and Harvey, soul grooving, and some neat stuff. You can see Eddie Grant on the back in there.
Yeah. Speaking of that kind of rock-oriented funk, out of New Orleans, the Meters.
Oh, yeah.
And the Meters definitely had some rock within their music, but also that really Southern New Orleans funk, which is totally a kind of a whole different breed in itself. But they put out just some incredibly good albums. This one's from '74, and really wonderful stuff from them. I've a few Meters albums, and I'd buy more. And just, hey, there's only so much room I have, right? So
you have to do the purge that we talked about a few weeks back to make room for that. Now, do you see what I talked Michigan here with the Yusuf Lateef, but do you see a Michigan connection with funk through parts of Funkadelic and Clinton and the likes?
Well, I just, when you say Michigan with Detroit, I just recently saw this, The Counts.
Yep.
This is it's a Detroit band. It was on Westbound Records. They were really promoting at the time Ohio Players and more. This Detroit band kind of got left behind, but very much out of the Detroit. Parliament Funkadelic from Detroit,
yep.
Spots. And when I look at that, one of the greatest Parliament albums, Mothership Connection, off Casablanca. But the early Parliament albums were really, really funky. You talk about rock, so there's Funkadelic. Funkadelic was definitely more rock oriented. I mean, it was funky. They had the stuff, a lot of the exact same players, but Clinton just wanted to have two types of music happening. And so this Funkadelic, he got his rock, a lot of hard guitars going on, and Parliament was horns, funky horns happening. And so big difference. But, it kind of takes you think of Michigan, with a lot of that harder rock sound, and the Funkadelic comes out of all that.
It's kind of the marriage of Motown and the acid rock of Lower Michigan in the late '60s, early '70s, and that's kind of where I was getting with this too. You've got your connections to soul, you've got your connections to jazz, and even though James Brown, you mentioned, kind of really came up with this in the mid '60s, there's, I think that there is some connections, especially with Motown, to try to get a little more funky and away from just the Motown sound proper in a few things. And it
Yeah.
works sometimes. And we've talked a little bit about the Motown label splitting off into Rare Earth Records to try to get more of their rock sound in. And yet,
Hmm.
like with the group Rare Earth, it does not leave that kind of a root rock sound, even though it's got the connection to Motown. And the result of that is something that is less than funk,
Yeah.
but still feels that way. Now, this Rare Earth, the Get Ready, another die cut cover, by the way. They're fun to find, but not a funk album by any means, but
Hmm.
more funky. I think I showed this one a while ago, another Rare Earth album, and that is Ma. That is a little bit more on the funk side. I think this is still Rare Earth. Yeah, it's still the Rare Earth label coming off of there. And I think I showed some of the other groups from the Rare Earth label that were bomping around at that time, trying to bridge that gap between Motown and rock. That does get a little bit funky.
It does. Well, and Motown was struggling because the whole girl group, guy group thing was dying. It just, we had moved on. The hippie generation wasn't interested in that. It was psych music,
Yep.
funk music. So you think how the Temptations changed. Suddenly now they have some psych in there. There's funk happening within the Temptations. And you heard that in some of the other groups and things that Motown was experimenting with because they had to move forward. The Rare Earth, that label was all about moving forward, trying to bring in the young people because the young people were not doing the Motown sound anymore.
The other thing too that morphed into, and we've touched on it with disco, and what really kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it the natural progression of funk, but more of the electronic side of things. You can say what you want. We make fun of disco from time to time here. I've even got a DG's back there, I think. You can make fun of it, but there's no getting around the cultural impact that disco had in the mid 70s to
Mm-hmm.
late 70s, and where it took over a lot of these other genres and mixed into it with the electronic, the funk, the soul, and all of that coming through on the
Yeah.
disco side of things. And there's so many
Yeah.
disco albums out there that flirt with funk on its own. You take like the Village People, a song like Jungle Boogie, for crying out loud, is funk straight up. Not the Village. Was it not the Village People?
Cool in the Gang.
Cool in the
Cool in the
Gang.
Gang.
Thank
Jungle
you.
Boogie. You're welcome.
Yes, it was Jungle Boogie by Cool in the Gang. Yeah, yes, Village People straight up disco, but yeah, Cool in the Gang, also a disco act, but what a funk song that is.
Hmm. And they were more of a funk act when they started.
Yeah,
But if you wanted to have a hit record, you needed to get disco. And so a lot of funk bands were out there trying to come up with disco type stuff. I think, Earth, Wind and Fire is a classic example. Definitely a funk band. But what happened in the later 70s? They were coming up with disco hits because that's what was being played. And
yeah.
that's what people wanted to have on the dance floor to get you excited. Uh, you know, uh, and funk really began, the disco was taken off, and there's a lot of great disco stuff happening out there. I do like disco. I enjoy it a lot. But as the 80s came,
Yeah.
Rick James,
Yep.
he brought back the funk. He brought it back hard. And then this dude,
Yep.
Prince.
You cannot escape the
And
Minneapolis influence in this between Prince and the
no,
time.
you cannot. That's the time, which was Prince's kind of backing band, and they did it. And this just brought the funk screaming back in to the whole picture within the 80s. And so you had bands like SOS coming out. The Bar-Kays were still going, but they were bringing more of the funk. The disco was going out, and we were doing a whole bunch of this. There's songs, groups like Hot Chocolate had soul, but they also had some really funky tunes going on. And so the 80s brought the funk back. It was different. It wasn't 70s funk because now you had synthesizers and
Yep.
stuff like that happening. But still, it had the funky beat, the danceability, focus on the bass, focus on the percussion.
Prince, I think, is another great example of someone who could take multiple genres and turn it into something unique yet familiar with a lot of his
Yeah.
stuff.
And you think about his guitar, very rock-oriented guitar playing, as you talked about this melding of rock and funk, and Prince could put out a hard rock guitar solo better than anybody.
Are
But
you heading into something more contemporary now? I'm hard pressed to think of, and we'll get corrected in the comments on this, I'm sure, but more current bands that you've got some, I think, here too, that delve into the funk straight up. Bruno, okay,
Bruno
yep.
Mars,
I was
Bruno
going to
Mars,
something like the Black Pumas, but that's more soul.
it is soul, but there is some funk in there. You
Yep.
could say that. I mean, Bruno Mars, his hits are just so freaking funky. I
Okay,
mean,
I
they are just
stand corrected then. Thank you. See, that's why you're schooling me.
but it just gets you up dancing, which is why I have it
It
because
is,
it
and
is like,
you flipped it around, and I thought I saw one of our price tags, so I probably could have and should have listened to that at some point.
yeah, it was exactly. It
It
is
was
one of your price
it was
tags.
in the store, and I didn't listen. Sorry.
Oh, but and there are, to your point, I guess, it's how much of the newer music do we listen to? I mean, there's
Yeah.
certain genres I listen to a lot, but I'm not out there trying to find what the funk is going on as far as with that. So there's no doubt there's some cool funky stuff that we're missing. But I think a lot of it, rap took over.
Yes.
And
Yep.
within the rap, then, I think of a group like Outkast. So Outkast made to me some extremely funky songs. But yeah, it was a rap group, but they were bringing in more instrumentation and doing different things. And so they had that, Skank something. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but there's some really funky stuff in there. Other rap groups would be, as they start to change and, move into new directions, I think more funk came in. I'm just not as aware of that.
Okay. You mentioned that too back in the 80s, a group like Run DMC. I just happened to catch there's a new release coming out. It's an EP release of Aerosmith and the rapper Youngblood
Yeah.
releasing a new song because they did a collaborative thing on the Video Music Awards. That made me think of the older Run DMC Aerosmith, of course, when they redid Walk This Way. And that is just the rap. It's like rap in the 80s and Aerosmith rock from the 70s got together and had a funky baby with that song. So
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was one of the best collaborations
yeah,
that were done between the two genres. So,
I've not heard the new one. I'll give it a listen. It's coming out next week officially, but I'll look for it online and see if that's holds a candle to the other one.
yeah. Yeah, with funk bands, especially in the 70s, there were so many good ones that just disappeared. They came, they went, no one cared. But you have that with garage rock, you have that with
Yep.
every genre, don't you? And so it's when you unearth these, and I think part of the exciting thing about record collecting now is they are unearthing
Yeah.
these albums. They were out there, no one bought them at the time, and now they put them out, and suddenly you're finding these and it's like, wow, this was really good. And it's exciting stuff, but at the time it's like there's too much. I guess maybe that would probably be, there's just so much other stuff going on. They got buried, they didn't have the promotion, or it was a small label, they
Yep.
couldn't keep up with it, and so it's one and done, I'm dead.
And some of those could actually be worth fair amounts of money if they come. I talked about that the Melvin Jackson, the Funky Skull, being worth triple
Mhm.
digits. But you got to find some of these more unknown bands and hope that they're in decent enough condition.
Skull snaps, there you go, you got more skulls, Jim.
There you go.
It's just a funky band. This thing's super funky. And you want an original, you're paying way up there. Triple digits. Easy. There was another one that kind of, where were they? Let's see. This one here. uh, going to spend around $200 to get an original of the Pharaohs. And the Pharaohs, where were they at? They were out of Chicago, and very, there's funk, but there's also kind of jazz in here. So there's a variety of different things that they add into that music. But yeah, pretty good stuff. But yeah, the Skulls, these guys are out of New York. But yes, funk albums were so sampled. Some of these obscure ones are so sampled that they are now worth a ton of money. It's just you got to find them in good shape, and you're lucky you can do that because whoever had them played the heck out of them.
Yes, which leads me to this next bit here, Steve. Recently we bought a new vehicle about 2 or 3 months ago. It's I'm in my 60s now, so of course I have to go get a red sports vehicle, not a sports car. But you ever do something like that, or where you get a new car and then all of a sudden you start seeing the same color car all over the place, or you start seeing the make, or you get a record even more in tune with what we're talking about, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that record everywhere. You've been looking for it for a while. Well, we've been kicking around the this episode idea for a couple of weeks now, and again we pushed it back because of the RSD Black Friday stuff that had happened. But I don't see funk hardly ever come into the store used. I'm talking never. So with this on the burner, and knowing that we were going to be recording this episode today, guess what walks into the store this week? This week is a small. There's about 5 or 6 other ones, but a small collection of funk albums that it's been years since I've seen it. So we've got James Brown doing the Payback. And to your point, Steve, these things are beat to hell.
Yeah. And that's rated one of the top 10 funk albums of all time.
It is there. And this one, the cover is just, it's ratted out. I don't like doing this, but I had to tape it because I couldn't fix it otherwise. I've not washed the vinyl yet. It's a little beat. It's just a good way to put it. But some of the stuff that came in, I was looking at this, and it is on the pricier side in good condition. This one looked somewhat familiar to you, didn't it? Junie, When We Do.
Does.
And it looks familiar
very much Ohio Players. Yeah.
And he's because Junie, his name is Walter Morrison, was in the Ohio Players, and he was in Funkadelic, and he was in Parliament as well. Yeah. And this is a solo album. And it's
they use that model constantly. In fact, that might be a different one there from the Ohio Players. Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio was like funk central. There's so much funk bands out of Dayton, Ohio. It was nuts. And when I used to go there for work, I thought I'm going to find funk music in Dayton. Never found a funk album.
Could never. I used to own, this is one of the other ones that came in from the Jimmy Castor bunch. I did used to own a Jimmy Castor album. It was the Bertha Butt Boogie with Troglodyte. This, I think, is a compilation. Creation's Just Begun. Troglodyte's on here. I don't know what happened. I think I got rid of my Jimmy Castor album when I opened the store a while back. But I guess I did have some funk. But Creation, this is just, the Bertha Butt Boogie was such a borderline disco but fun one. And this one,
it was
Johnny Guitar Watson, which I would really think would be more of a blues artist, but the album is Funk Beyond the Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So I've not listed these. Again, they just came in. I got to get them cleaned up. We'll get them out on the shelf unless I decide to keep them, or unless you
Johnny Guitar Watson was an interesting kind of guy. I mean, he would just try every kind of genre. He did disco, he did funk, he was just always trying something, and always a hot chick on the cover.
So it is Funk Beyond the Call of Duty. I just happened to tag it in Discogs, but I've not given it a listen. But yeah, to your point earlier too, all of these that came in, and again, there's about a dozen of them that came in. They're not in the best of shape, and here in our store, that means that a $50 to $60 album is now knocked down to $8 or $9 because of just the rarity.
Sure,
that's how it goes. Well, I feel a little bit better.
I don't need the cover.
That's
too
true.
bad I don't need the cover on any of them.
Oh, okay, but yeah, the cover on the James Brown's pretty beat up. So, but I do feel a little better. I've got some funk now. I got the funk in minimal amounts.
And I got in a large amount, but it's just a genre I've always been attracted to. I always it excites me. The music excites me, considering, white boy can't dance. That's okay.
There we go. Uh, uh, I don't know where to go with there, Steve. So you just
Well,
in the
here's the worst thing. Everyone is, you know what? No matter when you're dancing, you're thinking that you're really, really good. Have someone videotape it, then watch it, and you go, "Oh my god, oh my god."
where
Oh,
I think I was going to go with that, Steve, is in the privacy of your own record room. You can play that funky music, white boy, and
yes,
boogie till you die if you wish.
yes.
All right, folks. Well, do you got the funk? Do you need the funk? Do you got to have the funk? Let us know. If there's a few funk albums or artists that we missed, please feel free to chime in the comments and let us know where you stand. Again, it wasn't a genre that was really kicking into me in the purest form. And I guess when I said I've had the one, the Melvin is more jazz. So I guess I'm still going to have to work my way into something more pure, like a early Parliament. We get them in from time to time, but I've never seen a good condition.
Yeah,
So
because when you'd give them in, I'd be always trying to
that's true.
snap those up.
Like when you were
I
there.
actually do have a number of funk albums with the Radio Wasteland tag on it. Jim would get them in. I want it. I want
There
it.
we go. So feel free to chime in, folks. Let us know what you think. As always, we do appreciate you tuning in every week to Two Guys Talking About Records. And Steve, we're getting closer to Record Store Day, Black Friday. It is just as of the recording of this, just under 2 weeks away. So where we're
Yeah.
going to go in the next week or two is anybody's business. We'll figure it out. But I do know the day after Small Business Saturday, so 2 days after Black Friday, we usually do a wrap up of the Black Friday stuff. I'll let you know how things went here at the store, just generally what sold, what didn't sell. We can look at what you picked up and we'll see what I missed
Mhm.
and if I'm able to get the stuff I wanted after the fact. But that's a couple weeks
Yeah.
off, but we'll see how that goes.
Yep. Sounds always exciting for Record Store Day, whether you like it
And
or not. It's still
then
fun.
it dives into the Christmas shopping season, which means that I better start stocking up on greatest hits for
Yeah.
grandmas and grandpas
Which
to get.
also, yeah, very true. And the box sets are flowing now, folks. The
They
box,
are.
they are coming in.
Well,
Yep.
the Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here" is forthcoming, and I think we'll talk about that down the line. We'll dissect that. But
Mhm.
all right, on that note, though, Steve, I think it is time for us to pack it in for the week. I got a store to open up. You've got some sightseeing to do in the beautiful fall Colorado area.
Another gorgeous day. It's just saying, come on out. But we are putting up our Christmas lights before it gets cold.
So until next time, I'm Jim, and I own a record store.
I am Steve. I'm a record collector.
Thank you
That's
much,
funky.
Steve. You're super funky, man. Have at it. Talk to you folks next week.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.